Hey guys, ready for chapter 10? A daytime ghost. Tell us about this man and the strange fish, Nancy urged Kiabu. The Hawaiian described the fish as being only a few inches long with rough, scaleless skin. Because of its color and mottled markings, the fish blends with the seaweed where it lives, and its paired fins enable the creature to climb out. This frogfish, Kiabu went on, had a great mouth, and on the snout above it is a slender rod with a flap at the tip. The frogfish uses this as bait to lure the shrimp he eats. Kiabu said the man who had brought the fish in a covered bucket was Mr. Ralph Emler. Mr. Sakamaki asked him to stay to lunch, and I served them. The caretaker continued. Later, I was sent into Honolulu to find proper aquarium for the fish. When I returned, Mr. Elmer had gone. The fish lived only a few hours, and it was not until the next day, when Emma was dusting, that she missed the statuettes. Please describe Mr. Emler, Nancy requested. The caretaker told her that he was tall, with reddish blonde hair, and had a deep voice. Do you know where Mr. Emler is staying? Nancy questioned. Maybe, Kiabu replied. Soon after his visit, Mr. Sakamaki grew very weak. He wrote 2 long letters. One was to young Mr. Sakamaki and the other to Mr. Emler. He asked me to mail them, and I saw the address. Mr. Ralph Emler was visiting friends at Kaapolani Boulevard. Did this man come to Mr. Sakamaki's funeral? The young sleuth inquired. Kiabu shook his head. I never saw him again. Nancy asked Kiabu if he had any suggestions as to where she might start in trying to solve the mystery. He smiled. I understand you are a famous girl detective. I am afraid poor Kiabu could offer no help. During the balance of the afternoon, Nancy walked round and round the Golden Pavilion, trying to figure out what its secret might be. There was no visible opening under the platform. Behind the latticework was concrete, studded with pieces of lava rock. Finally, she gave up and went into the house. She made a tour of the mansion, but nothing came to light which gave her any clue to the strange happenings. This mystery is going to be a real challenge, she told Ned, as they strode outdoors after dinner. Dusk had fallen, and Nancy said she would like to watch the Golden Pavilion for a while to see if the dancing ghost Kiabu had seen might appear. But though they watched the building from a vantage point among the trees for 2 hours, nothing happened. In the morning, as Nancy was pondering over that new approach she could take in solving the mystery, Dave said, Some of our other Emerson fellows have challenged us to an outrigger race. Are you all game? Bess was the first to answer. I don't think our mixed group would stand a chance of winning, but if the rest of you want to try it, okay. Leave me out. You can have a crew of only 5 anyway. You're both right and wrong, Dave told her. We should only have 5 in the canoe. That's true, but we're going to win. Bess, Hannah, Emma, and Kiabu said they would come down to the beach and watch the race and root for their friends. At 10 o'clock, the Emerson group of paddlers appeared offshore. Nancy and George climbed into the Kalakula's outrigger canoe. Ned, Dave, and Bert followed, and each of them picked up a paddle. Ned sat in the stern to act as steersman. The outrigger skimmed over the waves and soon was alongside the other canoe. Nancy and George knew for the 4 of the boys and were introduced to the 5th, who was a steersman. Ready? Go! He cried out. The race was off, to be for a half-mile along the beach to a bayou buoy and back again. For a few minutes, the 2 outriggers stayed side by side. Then the one with the all-male crew began to pull ahead. George scowled. They mustn't beat us, she called out. Let's put on some steam. Everyone paddled harder, but they could not seem to catch up to their rivals. Finally, Ned said, I think our timing's off. We need better rhythm. When I call out, dip, dip, all put together. As soon as he did, the paddling became smoother. The first canoe made the turn and started back. Soon Ned's group reached the half-mile mark and made a close turn, losing no time. Gradually, the distance between the outriggers began to close. Little by little, Ned urged his paddlers to dip faster. As the two canoes neared the finish line, George cried out that they must go even faster. With arms working so quickly that they were a blur to the watchers on shore, the mixed group of paddlers finally nosed alongside the other canoe. The race ended in a photo finish. The hot, panting contestants laid their paddles across the canoes and caught their breaths. In a few moments, however, they were calling back and forth to one another. "Didn't think you could do it," said the steersman of the all-boy crew. "Congrats." The others laughed, and Bert said, "All you need are girls who paddle like boys, and you're set." And then he praised Nancy and George for their work. The 5 Emerson boys waved goodbye and started back for the Halakini. Nancy and her friends picked up their paddles and turned toward shore. They had not gone far when Nancy, gazing at the golden pavilion, gave a start. "Look!" she exclaimed. "A woman wearing a long white muumuu just crawled from underneath the pavilion." All eyes turned in the direction of the building. The woman was standing still, and the watchers wondered if she were going to dance. "But she couldn't have crawled from beneath the pavilion," George spoke up. "Keabu told me it has no opening." Nancy nodded. "And I didn't find any. It must be well hidden." Suddenly, the woman started running toward the house. A moment later, she disappeared among some shrubbery. "Oh, she'll probably go inside," Nancy cried worriedly. "I'm sure the house is unlocked, and Bess and Hannah and Keabu and Emma aren't looking that way." She and George tried to signal the group on shore about what was happening, but none of them seemed to understand and stood awaiting the canoeists. "I wonder if she's the ghost," Keabu saw, Nancy mused, "and why she's around in the daytime." "The ghostly hula dancer," Nancy exclaimed. The canoeists worked the paddles furiously as they came nearer and nearer the shore. Finally, Dave and Bert jumped out and pulled out the outrigger up onto the beach. With a quick explanation to those on shore, the others started running toward the house. The woman in the long white muumuu was not in sight, but Nancy felt sure this meant she had already entered the house. "We'll surround the place so she can't escape," the young sleuth suggested. The others spread out, planning to encircle the building completely. Nancy and Ned dashed up the front porch and burst through the entrance into the hall. At that moment, from somewhere inside the house came a blood-curdling scream. And that's where we're left at the end of Chapter 10. Next week, we get to explore Chapter 11, A Tantalizing Gift. I'll see you all tomorrow at book club. Be ready to talk about your week, and let's do show and tell again. Bring something you'd like to tell us about that excites you or you are very proud of. See you then.